Hey, welcome back to Friends Who Want You to Win.
Yes, in today's episode, we're diving into the powerhouse duo that shapes your entire life, self-esteem and self-confidence. Here's the truth. Confidence gets you noticed, but self-esteem is what keeps you grounded. It's not about pretending to be fearless. It's about knowing you're worthy, even in your most vulnerable moments.
People do not recognize that their self-esteem and their self-confidence is quietly navigating all of your life choices. Think about it. Today, we're going to break down how to align these two forces so you can step into every situation with unshakable belief in yourself from the inside out.
Now, this is the podcast we both needed when we were younger, and we can't wait to share it with you. Get ready to transform the way you see yourself and the way that you show up in the world.
Let's do it.
Woo!
We'd love to jump in with a definition of the things that we're talking about because sometimes we don't really know the definition of something we hear about all the time, right? We kind of have to get on the same page. And this is something that we were talking about when we were planning for this episode where we were like, oh, wait. There's some interesting details about these two topics.
People don't even realize there is a difference between self-esteem and self-confidence.
Right.
They are so used to meshing that together that they can never, and they don't get its true value because they don't know what it is.
And the stuff that we're going to talk about today is going to give a clear understanding of the difference between the two and then why it's causing effects and outcomes in your life and what you can do to kind of get in front of that.
I'm so excited about this. I can't even tell you. This was the biggest thing that changed my life. So I'm ready to dive in. Like, I'm just ready.
This is Soleil and my inner child being like, thank
Period.
you for the healing.
If you're like, stay tuned to this episode because this is something that if you master is like, changes everything.
Okay, so what is self-esteem, Soleil?
So self-esteem is our overall sense of self-worth and value as a person. Okay? Self-worth is the key word. Is overall sense of self-worth or personal value. It reflects how much you respect, appreciate, and accept yourself. Self-esteem is shaped by your internal perception of yourself and can be influenced by factors like achievements, relationships, and past experiences. This starts with knowing yourself and what values and beliefs that you hold. We'll dive more into that, but that's like a really good understanding what self-esteem is. Your own perception of your worth. All right.
So that's self to self.
Yes, that's self to self. That has that almost, it can be influenced by the outside world, but it's like it's almost like how you think about yourself. It's how you feel about yourself. It's everything going on internally.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And then contrary to that, related but contrary to that, self-confidence is your belief in your own abilities and specific skills in any given situation. So it is what you believe you are capable of, what qualities you have, what judgment you have about certain things. It's a sense of assurance, knowing that you can handle a situation, you can overcome a challenge, you can succeed at your goals or not. Maybe you are on the opposite side of self-confidence and you're not believing in your ability to handle situations, overcome challenges, or succeed at life in general. And so this is yourself pushed out, right? This is external to the world. It is how I approach all of the things that happen in my life and my belief in my ability to deal with those things as they come.
Yeah. So there is a difference between these two. Although, as Ari said, that there's related, there is a difference. Self-esteem isn't a choice. It's a feeling, all internal. Feeling, thoughts, feelings, right? Confidence isn't a feeling. It's your choices. Yep. So it's how you, almost a relationship to how you believe you can do something, right?
Yes.
It's all outside of yourself.
Yes. And so self-confidence is you believing in your ability to achieve the goals, but self-esteem is that deeper sense of your inherent worth as a person. And this is something that we see is built from a very young age, and sometimes we don't realize how much it's tied into every part of us, right? But you see sometimes where examples of this might be where a parent might intervene and help a child with something that they should be learning on their own. And it almost takes away that child's moment to learn their value as a person. Like, oh, wow, I'm capable of tying my own shoe, right? I'm capable of washing the dishes or whatever it might be, doing my math homework. Hopefully, parents, we're not doing our children's math homework.
I've heard of this. I've heard of this. You know, parents are also filling out applications to college. We are seeing you, okay? We are looking at you, okay?
We saw the documentary, you guys. We saw
the documentary, all right? So that's a fact, okay?
Yes. And so the thing about this is if you have just self-confidence without the self-esteem, it means that you're actually projecting an outward version of yourself through those actions and things that you do in your life that is a false sense of who you are. It's kind of this mask showing that you have this confidence, but it doesn't match how you actually feel about yourself on the inside. So we're going to dive all the way into that.
All into that. We can dive, because, you know, like, we will talk about this later, but we want to get more clarity first. But people don't realize you could have self-esteem without self-confidence. You could have self-confidence without self-esteem, right? And it's impacting your life. We're going to get into it. Yes. But first, audience, we want you to take the moment to think to yourself, how do you feel about yourself internally? Do you have healthy self-esteem? And you know, this is a hard question, right, Ari? Because you got to be like really honest with yourself. And some people may not even know what healthy self-esteem looks like, so they don't have a reference point. Right? They're like, oh, I feel good about myself, but they don't really know what are the qualities of healthy self-esteem, which we will get to. Right?
Yes. Yes.
Second question.
And on the flip side is, how do you act externally? Do you have strong self-confidence? Right? So are you projecting a confident version of yourself out into the world, or do you notice in certain situations you feel confident and other situations you don't? A really easy example of this that we can all identify in ourselves with the external part, the self-confidence, is things that you have never tried before, you probably will have a lower self-confidence in, right? And things that you're really used to, or you've done a million times, or maybe you've done a lot of research on it or whatever, you will feel a natural self-confidence towards that thing because you're like, oh, okay, I know how to handle this. I know what it looks and feels like. So you can notice those situations that you might feel that way. Soleil, do you 100%. Do you have an area that you feel very strong self-esteem or self-confidence?
Yeah, meeting new people. I'm great at meeting new people. I have very strong self-confidence in that. I love people. So I love learning about people. So I know to ask a million questions or just to be with people. I feel confident in just speaking to I can like speak to total strangers on the street. You know what I mean? Like that I feel confident about. How about you, Ari?
Definitely that is one. I think that's one of our strongest qualities in a quality education.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, and you want to be with a quality education, you got to know how to talk to strangers all the time. Right?
Yes. Or if you come around us, like, if you're cool, we're going to be friends. That's just what it is. Like, yeah. So definitely that. And you know, there's certain things like being able to talk to anybody, have a conversation, that I feel like actually gives you confidence in other areas.
Yeah.
Because I learned that skill first, which was to know how to chat someone up. Actually, my secret hot tip for people that are feeling less confident about chatting anybody is start with a compliment.
Yep.
It's like an instant icebreaker.
Girl.
It just gets you right in the door. You just be like, wow, I love your shoes, or whatever. Yep. Genuine, but compliment.
Yeah. Actually, when I used to try to seek out people I want to have a conversation with, I would start with a compliment that I actually sincerely meant. It's easy. Yes. That's I love that. That's a great
way to start practicing.
Yes.
But it gave me confidence when I found myself in different situations where I would be on stage and had to know how to like carry a conversation in front of a room full of people who are just silently watching you, or come into a podcast or whatever. You know, it's like you can practice confidence in one area and notice how it starts to affect different areas. And that's something I really love.
Oh, yeah, that's so true. That's so true. So... on the self-esteem note, though, I think people really need to hear the difference between a healthy self-esteem and an unhealthy self-esteem. So let's definitely dive into that, so you can really get some clarity, everybody, okay? So, healthy self-esteem, self-acceptance,
Definitely.
resilience in the face of challenges. Yeah, it's a hard one. Self-acceptance is a hard one. Resilience in the face of challenges. This is going to support your self-confidence when you are going to try something new. And balanced self-perception. People don't realize that this is such a powerful point, balanced self-perception, because they often think that people that have healthy self-esteem are reflecting almost like a narcissistic personality, right? The people that are just like, everyone kind of knows what narcissistic personality is, right? I hope you do. Like the over boasting, like the overconfident, over like, they're fueling, they're almost consistently wanting to fuel their self-esteem by external things, or almost neglecting the balance, right? They kind of let go of anything that doesn't feel like it's providing their ego support, right? So, balanced self-esteem with, like, you have to have a healthy perception of yourself. And people don't realize narcissistic personality traits often come from a low self-esteem, because they're consistently wanting to fuel they're consistently looking for ways to fuel their low self-esteem, and sometimes it comes out as narcissistic personality traits. So, with healthy self-esteem, balanced self-perception is being able to see your entire self, being able to see what you do great, and also being able to see the things that you need to work on, but it never takes away from your value or your self-worth. It never takes away. It's being able to really self-analyze your highs, your lows, and it doesn't destroy you. It doesn't, like, if you have something externally happening that's negative, it doesn't take a piece of your worth away. That's not what happens. So definitely balanced self-perception has to be one of my favorite key points.
Yes. And that like trickles down into a lot of different categories, because you gave the example of narcissism, but there's also the example of something like perfectionism, which is a for sure chronic issue that I am overcoming. I'm actively overcoming. You guys, we're transparent on this podcast. We're not perfect, okay? We're dealing with all these same things.
All of it.
And perfectionism is a real thing. People are in varying places on the spectrum, right? Like maybe you have trouble motivating yourself. Maybe you were on the other end where you're like super trying to overcompensate for something, you guys. And so, you are always striving for that perfection that actually doesn't exist, and embracing your own imperfections is what actually leads to your growth and boosts your confidence. Boost your self-confidence. If you've watched other episodes, you've heard me share my past issues of always needing to be right. And this is one of the forms of my perfectionism that I really had to deal with, where it was a need for me to always have that control of like feeling perfect, right? Because if I was vulnerable and people saw my flaws, then you just wouldn't love me anymore, and I can't have that. Okay. So the thing that really changed for me, it was a simple thing, and I didn't realize how it would boost my self-confidence, but I gave people the space to be right. It sounds so simple, but it was like, I didn't have to.
Yes, it didn't take anything it didn't take your worthiness anymore.
Right.
You allowing them to be right didn't take a piece of you anymore, right?
Yes.
It's like your self-esteem, you were learning how to your self-esteem was already intact. People don't realize you got to build that foundation within, for sure.
So embracing my ability to not be right, my imperfectness, was actually something that helped me become more confident and realize how I could grow. And by the way, the whole time I'm learning from other people because I'm giving them space to teach me things that I was closed off to before because I had to be perfect. So
yeah.
That's
it. That's it. Yes. That's a sign.
Unhealthy.
Of unhealthy self-esteem. That was a sign. Perfectionism, narcissism, and also chronic self-doubt or criticism. This was big for me. Even if I did everything right, I would always find something to criticize, and that was a horrible world to live in. Horrible world to live in. You cannot be present to your wins. You can't be present to your greatness because you're consistently critiquing yourself. Now, I will say sometimes that comes from having, like family members, friends, when you were younger, critiquing you too much, right? And then that develops and you start creating that in your own mind. Definitely a sign of unhealthy self-esteem. So we do need to let go of the self-doubt and the self-criticism for sure.
Yes. And something that kind of ties all of these things together, which is something we could probably recognize in all of ourselves, is when we avoid challenges because of the fear of failure. This is something that from a very young age, you are kind of taught that when you fall down, it's like, oh, are you okay? Or when you embarrass yourself in front of a group of people, it's like, don't do that again. We avoid challenges because it's something you've never done before. You don't know if you're going to be able to overcome it. And that fear of failure causes us to just be like, nope, I'm not doing that. I'm not going to look stupid. Right. I'm not going to let my sense of self, my self-confidence be battered by me looking silly in front of someone else or failing. And by the way, one of the things that we practice at Equality Education is you never, ever, ever fail. It's a fabricated concept. The only time that you are susceptible to failing is when you stop trying.
Yep.
There's never a failure. It is only a growth, a lesson, a blessing, whatever it is meant to come to you. You haven't failed until you give up on yourself. So challenge. Challenge yourself.
Challenge. Yes. I read a book one time and it said failure is a man-made concept. And I didn't really get it at first. So I was like, what does that mean, right? But then when you think about it deeper, it's like we dictate what failure is, right? We dictate on like, okay, this was a failure. And then we tie ourselves to that, and then it has a big impact for the rest of our life or whatever, right? But we're ultimately the ones, like, I just saw a video of this girl doing snowboarding, this little girl, right? And she falls, right? And she kind of busts her behind, you know what I mean? And the parents are like, are you okay? Can you move your head? Can you move your thing? And they were like, wow, that was amazing, because she was trying a new trick.
Yes.
You know what I mean? They were like, wow, like, you're getting close. And that mindset was like, yo, you're getting close, kind of takes you away from the failure and realize you're closer to actually getting whatever you need to get done.
Falling down is never a failure.
Period.
And that's something that boosts her confidence to outwardly take the action, but also her self-esteem, her belief in her value and how she's capable of being an amazing snowboarder.
Hello.
I love that. Okay, so for self-confidence, we have some myths that everybody is very familiar with. We like to talk about things that we know every person who's listening resonates with all the time. We know. Okay, so one of the things that us who are a little more introverted or maybe feel a little more anxious in social situations or whatever is that confidence is something that is only for extroverts.
Wrong.
And if you're a little more introverted, you might feel this way. You might be like, oh, I'm going to let that person be loud and boisterous and take up all the space in the room. But that's not the only way that we can be confident.
Period.
Right? Yes. And someone might be confident in a very loud outward expression of themselves, but confidence comes in all of those different forms. So you can be confident in your body language. You can show so much confidence without even opening your mouth, right? Yeah. You can be confident in the way that you give someone else attention. So it doesn't even have to be about the attention being on you and you being totally extroverted. You can just pour your energy and active listening into somebody else, and they receive that confidence from you where you have time for them and you have energy for them. It's like, wow, this person's really nice to be around. That's confidence.
That is confidence.
Yep.
I know so many people, so many friends, so many people that are on the quieter side. But they just they don't have to perform for anyone. Yes. They feel like they don't have to perform. They feel like they're just there. They're having a good time. They're focused on having a great time. They're not focused on like, do I look good? Am I engaging? Am I this? They're not overthinking it, you know? So confidence definitely doesn't have to look like an extrovert that is loud and, you know, boisterous or anything like that, you know? It can also be the introvert sitting in the corner enjoying their time. They could be a very confident person. I love that myth. I love it.
Yes.
So
myth busted.
Myth busted. Myth busters. Okay. Spicy myth number 2, right? Confidence is something you're born with.
Busted.
Wrong. You build self-confidence. Other people can impact your self-confidence. Your achievements can impact your self-confidence. Confidence is like a muscle. You build it. You don't actually, to be honest with you, like people, when you come out as a baby, you're learning how the world works. You're even learning the relationship that you have with yourself. People don't realize it. They think that babies come, they're confident, I'm ready to go. But most times, confidence is like building a muscle. And parents and friends, we build it for each other. You know, when you telling your girlfriend, wow, you look good, girl. You're boosting her self-confidence. You're nurturing each other. So just keep in mind that it's not something that someone is born with and you're without. That's not the case. We just need to exercise a little bit, okay?
Yes. Build it like a muscle. Go to the confidence gym, try something new, get a new challenge experience in your life, and build that confidence.
Yep. 100%. Build it.
Okay. Another one is that confidence means that you never feel afraid.
Come on, guys. Come
on. And this is so hard because we are so programmed to compare ourselves to other people these days. And you see the way that you perceive someone outwardly, and you think that way you see them outwardly is how they feel internally. But again, self-esteem versus self-confidence. Self-confidence is how you present yourself. Self-esteem is how you actually feel. Sometimes when we're trying something new, we are scared out of our mind. You don't know what the outcome's going to be. You don't know what you're doing. You're faking it till you make it. You're just like out here not having any idea. But if I am trying it and I'm actively learning in that moment how to do that thing that maybe I've avoided in the past, I might be feeling afraid at the same time, but I'm doing it anyways. So it's not the absence of feeling fearful, feeling scared, feeling afraid, whatever, but it is the ability for you to act despite that fear. You did it anyways. You tried it anyways. You prove yourself right.
100%. And people don't even realize that even admitting that you're afraid is a confident action.
Yes.
You're being vulnerable. You're admitting
not perfect.
to it. We're not. Period. And it's all right. So, you know, as long as we're going to get through it, you know, and being afraid doesn't dictate our whole experience. That's really what it is.
And usually it means that you're on the right path, because when we have those feelings of being uncomfortable, if it's fearful or whatever, it means that you are challenging yourself and doing something new, which means that you will get a better result as you continue to move forward. So that is a positive symptom of growth.
Period.
Right there.
Last spicy myth we want to talk about is it is not fake it till you make it. But instead, start where you are and try it even if it makes you uncomfortable.
Yes.
Now, people are going to get a little upset about this, Ari, because people love fake it till you make it. You know what I mean? They love that. But the thing is...
It works sometimes.
It does work sometimes. But I feel like some people get stuck in faking it.
Yes.
They don't actually work on it. They just get stuck in and faking it, which we'll talk about later, leads to imposter syndrome. Leads to you thinking that you are not really that it. You know, like you are not it. You're continuing to fake it. You're not embodying it. You're not practicing it. Like you know, like I tried to stay away from that just a little bit, you know?
And so that's good for you to have, if you have a moment where you have to have kind of false confidence when you're stepping into something new, it's cool for you to kind of fake it in that moment. But then when you've done it and you realize that this is someone you want to embody, or this is something you want to do, so like what you're saying is like, take on the authenticity of actually becoming that role and building the confidence and the self-esteem to support who you say you are. Don't continue to wear a mask of somebody where you're like, look at me, this is what I do, but it's not authentic, it's not true.
Right?
That's too much faking. Yeah.
It's too much faking. Too much. So,
but start where you are. Start where you are, guys.
Start where you are. Come on. Start where you are. Embody it. Practice it day by day. Become it.
And all those people you've seen who are super accomplished and fantastic and amazing and wealthy and extraordinary, and you wish you were them, they all started at some point in one category or another at the beginning, just like you.
Period. Okay. Yep. Big question, right? Can you have self-confidence without having self-esteem?
Such a good question.
Right? So, a person can feel confident in their abilities in certain areas, such as performing well at work or excelling in a hobby or looking good in photos, but may still struggle with a deep sense of self-worth. They might have doubts about their overall value as a person, even if they excel in specific tasks. So you're almost like, man, I love this definition because I really feel like I was this person. I'll be honest with you. I really feel like I was this person. I was this person that, like, I felt confident in my abilities, but I never attached my worth or myself to anything that I achieved. It was always everyone else's. I always gave the credit to everyone else, which was crazy. I've never, like, taken it for myself. The reason why it's crazy, because if you don't know, in my past life, right, I was a performer. Like, I would go and do music and be on stage. I was traveling the world. I'd done Rwanda and like just festivals and just great things, right, in this life. It was such a great time of my life. But for some reason, I got so caught up in, like, it's not me. I felt like it wasn't me who was doing all the work. It was everyone else around me putting in the work for me to be this way. Which is so loco. It's so crazy because I'm over here doing the work, but I had a problem taking credit. My worth was so low that I wasn't allowing myself to celebrate myself. I was not allowing it. I was just saying that, oh, I'm pretty good at this because of this bandmate or because of this person around me, and I never embraced that. No, I'm great. I'm good. I'm here. I'm doing a good job. Because when you don't have a good sense of self-worth, you actually almost never accept that you're doing a good job, which is kind of aligned with imposter syndrome. You are kicking butt at work. You are kicking butt in your hobby, but you're never able to really embrace it. Embrace that as part of who you are. Give yourself credit. You're never able to, like, actually let it fuel your self-worth. This is imposter syndrome, and it's very hard to get over. It's so difficult to get over. I remember one time someone told me, Soleil, because I was having a whole breakdown because, this was a lesson I needed in my life, and I don't know if anybody knows, but healing looks really ugly. It's not cute, okay? Healing is ugly, okay? And I remember somebody telling me, there's nothing wrong with you, Soleil. Your self-worth, your self-esteem is, like, horrible. And that's because I wanted to make everyone else feel good around me, but never, just like my last episode, Happy Soleil. I was showing myself as a very self-confident person. I wanted everybody else to feel good around me, but my self-worth was to the ground. I felt like the people pleasing, I was for everyone. And no matter how great I guess, I just couldn't accept the credit. So,
which is crazy because oftentimes that's kind of what we were saying a minute ago, where you'll see a picture of somebody on the outside and think that they kind of have it all and everything looks like beautiful and shiny and well put together. But that person's experience of that might be totally different, where they're just kind of stuck in a negative cycle of, like in your case, not being able to take not having the self-esteem to take credit for the things that you had the self-confidence for, right?
Yes.
And needing to build your self-esteem so you can actually feel worthy in the first place. And then that stuff kind of dissipates as a result, right? It kind of, you let go of that need to, the same thing we were talking about with the perfectionism. Like you let go of that need to have that you're either overcompensating or you're being defensive about some area of your life because you actually don't have that worth and value within you. What's interesting about this too is that it can be in different areas.
Yeah.
So I can have it like opposing, like I can have self-worth of being worthy of like love and respect, for example. Like maybe I have a really good group of friends and family around me and I feel really valid as like a good person who should be loved and respected. And so that's your self-esteem is really strong in that one area. And you show that confidence through that area of strong self-esteem by being a good friend, by showing up for your family, by taking care of those around you. Those are your values and beliefs that you hold, and then they come through in your relationships. However, on the other side, you could, let's say, get a new job. And let's say you have to perform in the new job, you have to do like public speaking or something like that. And you don't have the self-esteem. You don't have the value. You don't have your belief in you being good at that particular thing, right? So maybe you think that you don't have enough knowledge in that particular area to be to be an expert on that topic, right? And so then you have to go get up and talk in front of people. But because you don't feel valuable and worthy as an expert on that information, you now are lacking self-esteem in your ability to, you're lacking self-confidence in your ability to outwardly go and perform on stage. Yeah, like go talk to a group of people or give them information on something. And so I have esteem and confidence in this one part of my life. But in this other part of my life, my self-esteem is lacking. And so then when I have to go and do the thing related to my self-esteem, my self-confidence is lacking and it shows outwardly in your performance.
So, yes, 100%. So that's a good example of maybe having self-esteem. Also, you don't have self-confidence, right?
Yeah.
Where a person may have a healthy sense of self-worth and value in themselves as a person, but they may struggle with the confidence in certain areas of your life, just like what you said. For instance, they may feel worthy of love and respect, but still feel uncertain in their ability to perform well in the new job or the public speaking, as you mentioned. So such an interesting thing, right? As a person that's why it's important to nurture both, because you can have self-esteem without self-confidence and you can have self-confidence without self-esteem. So important to nurture the both areas.
And why it gets tricky is because you might have self-confidence in one area. Our question we asked before, like, do you have self-esteem? Do you have self-confidence? You'd be like, oh yeah, I have this. But when you look and see, you might have that self-esteem towards yourself in one particular area,
but not all of it.
Yeah. So you actually have to look at your beliefs and your values.
Well, self-confidence. Because self-esteem is overall self-worth, right? But it's like self-confidence is like more of one particular area.
Expression of it.
Exactly.
Yeah, but you can still have different, in my experience, I feel like you can still have different categories of because your self-esteem is made up of your values and your beliefs, right? Mm-hmm. So if you have a really strong belief that you hold in one particular category, but your belief or your value isn't well established or it's not well practiced or you don't have strong values in this other area, it can be disjointed. Right? It's not overall like across the whole board. It could be like this one area I feel very strong and well practiced and I have a belief in myself around it, but then this other area maybe I've avoided it, maybe had a bad experience, whatever, but I haven't formed that perception of myself, and then that is continually, that lack of self-esteem is continually affecting my self-confidence around that.
But it's also like being able to not be like self-confident in a certain area, but also not let it impact your self-worth or your self-esteem. So even if you're nervous about like public speaking, or if you're nervous about like your new job, that shouldn't take a toll on, that shouldn't you could be upfront with, okay, maybe I'm not prepared, maybe I'm not ready to perform, but it shouldn't take a piece of you. You know what I mean? Like, and that's why I think that people have like such a sensitive relationship to failure, because I feel like people's self-esteem often gets impacted by their failure. Now, if your self-esteem was so intact and so like have like a strong foundation, and remember, a balanced foundation, not no egotistical crazy stuff. Okay. You're not going to be impacted by the failure as much as a person that does not have that level of self-esteem, right? Because I remember, girl, when I was failing, oh my gosh, the world was crumbling around me. It took a piece of me. It was a reflection of myself. It was so crazy. You tie yourself to that one failure moment because you haven't set that foundation within you. You feel me?
Yes, absolutely. And that's a difficult thing because it creates this cycle where that low self-esteem is leading to poor choices, right?
Yes.
Because what happens is we actually struggle to trust our own judgment around something.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So if you're trying to have that confidence in a certain area, but you have that lack of self-esteem, you're questioning your worthiness and your capabilities, and then it affects your ability to make a good decision in that area. So you're choosing things outwardly that don't align with your true desires or values. And that goes for what you're saying, the overcompensating too.
Mm-hmm. Because you don't know who you are. Exactly. You know, just like what you said, self-esteem, you know your values, you know your beliefs. You don't know who you are. You are so way more vulnerable to the world, external factors around you. You are so vulnerable. You're vulnerable to society. You're even vulnerable to getting sick from people around you if you have low self-esteem. You're vulnerable to getting sick. You know, so 100%. If you don't know your values, you don't know yourself. So you're definitely going to be making some poor choices now.
Yep. One of the big ones that I feel like we see all the time in people who don't have that strong sense of self, your decisions are getting all tangled up and you are doing things, like you said, you're kind of susceptible to the influence of others. You're doing things that you don't necessarily want to do all the time, is overcommitting to please other people, right?
You know, that was me. I've said it a million times on this podcast. That was me, everyone.
Maybe we ourselves are a people pleaser, or we know someone very close to us who has been.
I've been there. I've done that. That person dead and gone.
Yep. And it's hard still. You do still have to check in about people pleasing, right? Because it's like, if you have that as an old pattern of what you used to do in the past, you have to check that sense of self. Yeah. You have to be like, wait, is this for me, or am I doing this for them, making it seem like it's for me? But
for their reaction.
Yes.
It's for their reaction. That's the crazy part. Your self-esteem is tied to their reaction, so you're overcommitting to pleasing them.
Yes. And we all know what happens when you overcommit.
Makes me nauseous.
It's like, it crumbles everything. Everything. You end up being burnt out. You end up resenting. This is what I did when I was people pleasing. I would, girl, this is how.
Hate them.
This is how crazy our minds are. This is how tangled up we get. Okay, so like you would come to me. No, you wouldn't even come to me. What am I saying? I would offer to do something for you because I thought that it was going to help you and make you feel better about me because I was offering to help you out. And then you would be like, okay, fine, whatever, because you didn't even need it in the first place. I was just overcompensating. And then I would overextend myself to do that thing. I would overcommit myself to the other person. It would lead to me being burnt out. It would lead to me being overwhelmed. And then I would resent you for it.
I'm sorry, but how many people that are listening can relate to that whole dynamic Ari was just saying?
That's literally the definition of insanity. What are we doing here? And I saw that pattern, and then I would look back on it, and I did it with my boyfriend at the time, my now husband. And I would look back on these things, and I was like, why would I even do that? So bad. It's all bad. Cut it out. Stop overcommitting. You're burnt out. You're resentful. You're overwhelmed. It's all from you. You think it's everybody else out here.
No, you. Cut it out. I love that. Remember, cut it out? That's what anyways, that's a fact. That's a fact. I love that. I love that point. I love that point. I love that perspective. Because how many people we know that operated, girl, what? Come on, let's be real. Anyways, number two, right? Poor decisions due to low self-esteem. Number 2, staying in unhealthy situations.
Oh my gosh. These are all like, again, these are all everybody, right?
I'm telling you, man.
This is everybody. Okay, tell us.
People will stay in toxic relationships, personal or professional, because they don't believe they deserve better. Ooh. They might accept mistreatment or settle for less than what they deserve, reinforcing the belief. You're reinforcing your belief that you are not worthy of love and respect. You're reinforcing. That's the thing about the brain, right? The brain is always reinforcing your values and your belief. So if you have low self-esteem, you're putting yourself into a situation that is bringing all of that feelings up again, because that's what your mind and that's what your body is used to, okay? Whether it's the toxic friendships, because I've been there. We have done the toxic friendships before. I've done it. And it's not cute, and you feel like you're just there and you're stuck, or the unhealthy relationship, you feel like you're there and you're stuck and you can't go anywhere, and you do have the free will to go somewhere, but you just don't have the belief in yourself to do it. You have to have that self-esteem and that self-confidence in yourself to get out of those situations, okay? And no, that's why, what do they say? In order to love someone else, you gotta love yourself first? Yep. It's a fact.
Yep. It's crazy because you're in a self-depreciating cycle that you're keeping yourself trapped in, and you don't even realize, because you just got to get your personal power up. You got to get your own sense of self-worth up for you to be able to realize that this is something that you're stuck in and you have the power to get out of it.
But I will say, I want to debunk this real quick, because there's a lot of people that operate in the world saying that I can't be in certain friendships or relationships until I solely focus, until I isolate myself. Here's the deal, y'all. Listen to me real quick. You often don't know the dynamic of what's happening internally within yourself until you're interacting with the outside world.
Absolutely. 100%. That's where the mirror is.
That's the mirror. Isolating yourself can also mean you are hiding.
And avoiding.
And you're not willing to look in the mirror.
And if we simplify what you're saying, Soleil, you would never expect a child to get an A in math class without having them practice on their homework. So if we need to learn how to be in relationships, how are you going to figure yourself out when you keep yourself from the relationships that you need to learn how to be better in?
Yo, when I first heard of this, I was upset, girl. I was upset. 'Cause I was like, damn, like, grow. In order to grow, you have to experience pain. You gotta go through it. And I know this is like taking it a little bit.
That's a hot take. People don't want to hear that.
People don't want to hear that. And it's like, yo, like I was in a trauma class and they said this, and it was like, you know, even if you experienced trauma before, oftentimes in order for you to grow, you have to start interacting with other people again, other people that support, or even that experience, the bad or the good, is going to help you in the long run if you're going to self-reflect and take that opportunity. But a lot of people don't want to hear that. But anyways, I'm not saying to stay in unhealthy situations. You got to be able to learn to, you know, walk out.
Yes.
But there is something special in the process of learning to walk out. It's something that when you're building your self-esteem by saying, I am done, I am walking out, I don't deserve this situation. If you're never in a dynamic, negative or positive, you actually don't get to see yourself to save yourself.
Exactly.
So just saying.
And on that same note, it's all rooted in us trusting ourselves, right? It's all rooted in you being able to trust that version of yourself that you are growing out of and growing into. And this is something, my dog's drinking some water.
Your dog.
This is something, can we all hear him? Yes.
My dog was barking, so we dog moms if you don't know, okay? Sun King and Mila want to join the podcast. Go ahead.
Always noisy dog moms. And so all of this is actually tied to our wanting to, when you have that low self-esteem about yourself, it is you wanting to avoid the fear of failure. And so you avoid opportunities. But this ties into what you were just saying, Soleil, right? Because if I am worried about, I've watched some people very close to me who went through what they perceived as failed relationships. And then they were like, I'm over love. That's not for me. They were like, I'm not doing that again. It ruined me. I'm absolutely not going to find a person who can satisfy these parts of myself that this other person just totally destroyed. And so what they did is they believed that they wouldn't succeed, and they thought that their own inadequacies were going to lead to more mistakes. They couldn't trust themselves. They didn't have that self-esteem to be like, I'm a trustworthy person. I make good decisions. And so you have this fear of failure, and so you avoid opportunities because of it.
And you know what's so crazy? Even there's low self-esteem, even what you're saying, your low self-esteem is taking that negative situation and looking at it through the perspective of your low self-esteem. And what I mean by that is because if you're no longer in a relationship, if you learn from those unhealthy relationships, I mean, tell you. What?
The most. That terrible ex was your best teacher. Come on.
It's true. You learn the most from your unhealthy relationships. Now, if you were to take that perspective and you're looking back and you're like, what did I learn? And then you realize you should be, if you're leaving that unhealthy relationship, you should be proud of yourself.
Yes.
You should be like, yo, like my self-esteem, I got to nurture my self-esteem because next time it's going to be great. With all the lessons that I've learned? Are you kidding me?
Yep.
Come on.
But we get worried that we will be trapped in a cycle of doing the same thing again, right? We get nervous that because you have that low self-esteem from that situation, understandably, right? Like you went through some whatever it was, and it really you can have a sense of self that actually gets lowered because of interactions that you have with others. And it's on us to look at those situations and reassess afterwards. It's not always healthy to just like move through life and continue moving and moving. You need to actually pause and look at yourself and say, like you were saying, Soleil, what did that situation teach me? How was that person holding up that mirror really teaching me something about myself? And although they might not be the one for me, that situation might not be the one for the experience, whatever, might not be the thing for me, it showed me something about myself that I didn't know before, and you could use that to build a stronger sense of who you are. It's a beautiful gift.
It is.
Uncomfortable AF.
Uncomfortable. Okay.
Yes.
Uncomfortable. Okay. And I know whoever is in that unhealthy dynamic, you start working on your self-esteem and your faith in yourself, and then you will be disgusted by staying one more day. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, you'll be disgusted by staying one more day. You'll be like, I can't do this. The thing about it, when you nurture your self-esteem, the things that you used to do before, it's almost like, oh, hell no.
What?
Like, you're almost like, no, never again. You're almost disgusted by it. It's like a one-way door. You nurture your self-esteem and you start seeing the things that you did before.
Yes.
You're like, I'll never do that again.
And you know what's so funny? You could be in a situation for years and you can have that realization in the blink of an eye. Like,
yeah.
you can, it's like a night and day, and then you're like, wait, what? This was who I was like when I woke up this morning. What just shifted, right? Mm-hmm. But that's exactly what you're saying. It's actually you growing into a more developed, more valued sense of self, where you're like, that's not for me. What was I doing?
That's true. That's
right?
so true.
And then it's uncomfortable because you have to get the work, you have to then do the work to move on and move past and create new dynamics. But if you didn't have that experience, you would have never had that viewpoint and understanding about how to make yourself better.
Yeah.
It's a gift, you guys. It is a gift.
It's a gift.
It is.
Look at that hard moment and think about, what did you get from that hard relationship, that hard whatever. What did you get from that moment? You know, like, and it's difficult. Don't hear this podcast and think, oh, these two pretty girls haven't really seen the other side of pain. That is a lie. That is a lie. Okay, that is
you don't know what anyone's been through.
You don't know what you've been through.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So don't do that. There have been various situations where I feel like I couldn't, grow from, or I had challenges and I needed to nurture my self-esteem. But know that those people in the dynamic now, you can do it. And sometimes it's going to take time, but just keep nurturing yourself. Keep nurturing you.
Yes.
And see what happens, okay?
Yes. And so the idea of what we wanted you guys to get from this whole conversation today is that self-esteem is actually the root cause of having a strong self-confidence.
Yeah.
Right? So we might see those people outside who are big and boisterous and have super loud self-confidence, but what you don't know is they might be overcompensating. They might not actually have a strong self-esteem that's intact. It might just be a mask. So when you want to actually feel good about yourself and then have all of your decisions in your life reflect that, so you start acting in a way that is in line with those values and beliefs and morals that you have defined for yourself and really believe in, you have to align those two areas. You have to have that self-esteem, know who you are first, ask yourself those questions. What are my values, my beliefs? Build the self-esteem, and then be able to translate that outwardly into self-confidence in yourself. And because it is the Equality Education, co-founders Ariana Soleil and Ari, we always will teach you how to do it. Yay!
Period.
We want you to have some skills when you leave any conversation with us. We are going to give you some skills that is now your responsibility to go out and practice and see how it can reflect a difference in your life over time.
Yes. 100%.
Where are we going to start?
Okay, so, we actually talked about this before. We talked about the difference between self-esteem and self-confidence. But I want to think about it with each area of your life. So we want to self-audit. You want to choose the different areas of your life, your career, your relationship, your health, and etc. And we want you to rate your self-confidence. We want you to rate your how worthy you feel of success in each area. Okay, yes. I want you to see what that feels like. I want you to be honest. Notice any gaps. For example, if you feel confident in your job performance, that's great. But what if you feel less confident in dating, in your relationships or whatnot? Identify the areas where your confidence is high, but your self-esteem lags, and vice versa. Give yourself that authentic moment. It's going to transform your life.
So you start with that self-audit, like Soleil said, look at all those areas and ask yourself, where do I have self-esteem in these particular areas? And where am I maybe lacking and I don't feel worthy of an outcome? This could be something as simple as like feeling like you can't earn a lot of money.
Yeah.
This is a lack of worthiness, right? feeling like the example I gave before, I had a bad relationship in the past. I'm over love. I'm not worthy of it from somebody. And maybe you feel it from a defensive point of view, right? You're like, I don't need to be in love. That's you being defensive. It's you not feeling worthy of being in a loving relationship. Okay, so look at these things. It's going to be a little real for us. But it's
definitely going to be real. It's definitely going to be real.
It's worth it. It's worth it.
Yes.
And then the next thing is for you to shift your focus from of your confidence from having external validation, so needing to get praise from others, needing to be complimented on a job well done, needing to get attention from people for things that you do. Shift from that into internal fulfillment. So this is the idea of love yourself first, right? And then what you're doing is you're actually practicing building your self-esteem first, where your self-confidence can follow naturally and with authenticity, instead of you having this big bolstered self-confidence, which isn't necessarily authentic and real. So when you shift from that external, the self-confidence, when you shift that from needing all that attention from others, you shift it into you giving it to yourself first, that you don't have to get it from anybody else. It's going to be so such true. A relief. It's like,
I also challenge that with learning to be a good receiver. I think, and that's from, not just from any person, I think that's from life itself, right? Where if good things are happening to you, not in an egotistical way, but know that you deserve it. Like, know that, like, if a miracle happens, like, I don't know, you get a raise at work, or you meet the love of your life, or, I don't know, like, you eating healthy all day and you feeling good about yourself, whatever it may be, I want you to really resonate with it. Don't run away. Don't, you know when you're trying to give a gift to a friend and they're like, I don't know how to receive. Like, no, like, say thank you and feel worthy of whatever life is giving you as well. All the good things. Look at your life. Look at what's good around you, and know that you're worthy of receiving all of that from universe, life, God, whatever you believe. You know, like, you're worthy of that.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And that'll give you the ability to celebrate the things that are internal progress rather than what you're waiting to get all the time, right? And it's things like being patient or creative or persevering, having resilience. And it's not you waiting to get the job promotion or the accolades or the praise, but you're actually able to, you are fueling yourself, and you are a good receiver for the things that come to you that are meant for you.
Yes.
You're not out here trying to get, right? You're like, I receive what is best for me in each and every moment. I'm open and receptive to those things.
Yeah,
so the
100%.
way that, the way that you can actually practice this is when you are completing a goal or a task, something that is a physical thing, you can not just focus on that outcome, like the praise or the accolade, right? You ask yourself, how did I grow from that situation, and how did I value, what values of my own did I honor in that process, right? So I am looking at myself through the lens of the doing. Mm-hmm. But you make it an internal process, and what you're doing is you're pouring your energy and your focus back into yourself. So you are revitalizing yourself from within, and
giving yourself credit.
And
you're giving yourself.
Yes. Like, you don't have to get recognized. If you know you did a good job, you be like, girl, you prepared, you showed up, you were on time, you wowed the room. You know, you don't have to wait for somebody to give you that compliment for you to feel that within yourself. And we know those things. We've all had those moments where you were like, I did a good job at that. Give yourself more of that.
That's so true. I love that. Also, I think we can, self-esteem really comes from your belief of yourself, right? And your belief kind of shows up with some thoughts, right? There's thoughts that may come into your mind. It's important that you have, I like to call it like something to battle your negative thoughts, which is like an affirmation, right? You need an affirmation. When you have a negative thought, I want you to say the affirmation 3 times. if you're gonna take one today, take I am worthy. Just take it. I am worthy.
Yes.
Whatever negative thought comes in, I am worthy. Period. Shut that voice in your head. Oftentimes, it's not you. It's your external influences that manifested into your internal world.
Yep.
You know, so just when you have a negative thought, I want you to like combat it. I want you to combat it right away. Actually, we even have a workbook page, you know, workbook, thoughts, feelings, and actions. Right?
Yes, shameless self-plug.
Actually, shameless self-plug. Let me see
Show
if I can
us.
find the page.
This book is magical, y'all. If you haven't seen it, look into it.
It says the things you think and say about yourself will end up coming true.
Yes.
Okay? This is also how your self-esteem manifests into the real world, into reality. And on this page, you get to see you can write down all your negative thoughts and you could change them into positive thoughts. The purpose of this is to have something to battle those negative thoughts that come into your mind. You want to remember that you have the power to change your thought. So if you have the power to change your thought, I really urge you to not stay in that negative thought world. I urge you to have that affirmation ready to go. That's actually one of the things that I did for my self-esteem. I had affirmations ready to go when I was having a negative moment about myself. And shout out to my mom. She bought me affirmation like literally like art, like little art, like
wall
mixed
cards.
tiles. If you guys don't know about mixed tiles, mixed tiles, and I had it everywhere I had it everywhere in my apartment, and that made such a difference. Like, have it everywhere, embody it. The more that you say it, the more that you're gonna behave from those affirmations. So, yeah,
absolutely. Mm-hmm. And what's our affirmation?
I am worthy.
Yes.
Worthy. You are worthy. And if you are uncomfortable saying it, good. Say it 100 more times.
Yes, exactly. And then go out and do the thing that helps you feel the worthiness that you are lacking within yourself. And all of those things will be a cycle that helps reinforce each other. You will build that self-esteem by building your self-confidence, and your self-confidence will build your self-esteem when you are living your truth. Right? We want a true sense of how you feel valuable, how you feel worthy, and it will make you act truly confident on the outside. You won't even have to try. You just be like,
and it will like stop self-sabotage. It will stop you from self-sabotaging your life, because sometimes our thoughts will lead into those feelings that lead into those actions that we do not want to manifest into our life. Mm-hmm. But if you stick with that negative thought, if you change it for a positive thought, if you have an affirmation ready to go when those negative thoughts happen and it helps you persevere, it will help you stop with the self-sabotage. We can get into self-sabotage in another episode, but like that's going to be the thing. Yeah, we'll save that for y'all, but that's going to be the thing that will disrupt the system happening.
Yes, exactly. Just a reminder, because we always remind you at Equality Education that self-reflection is not self-criticism. We'll tell you every time you join us for an episode. We tell each other all the time. We practice it all the time. Just because you are looking at yourself honestly and being truthful about the areas that you can do better or that you want a different outcome does not mean that you have to be critical about where you are currently. Everything happened with lessons and blessings. Everything that you are interested in your future can be a goal that you realize if you organize your thoughts like we're talking about. You follow through on practicing these skills, and it will all be worth it. We promise you.
Yes.
We promise.
You have to create that safe space within, okay? Safe space within.
Yes.
Safe space within.
Which is feeling worthy. It's feeling worthy of having a better life. When you want something better for yourself, it's giving worthy. When you want something better for yourself and you feel worthy enough to actually have it as an outcome for yourself, you can admit it and be like, I gotta do better. I'm gonna do better because then I'm gonna be over here and y'all are gonna be like, wow, she's doing great.
Period.
Worth
it, okay? So, and now we have a call to action. To action, okay? In the next 24 hours, we want you to take one uncomfortable action. The reason why is because it's going to help you with your self-esteem and self-confidence, okay? If you can get through the uncomfortable action, that means you could do anything, okay? Now, we want to hold you accountable to this. So I want to definitely hear people, like, see people emailing us, DMing us, whatever. Take one uncomfortable action. Take one, whatever it may, and you know in your gut what that action is. Okay? The thing that you just told yourself, oh, I can't do that, that's the one. Like, that's
and it
the
can
one,
be
okay?
simple. It could be just going to the gym. It could be calling a friend. It could be, you know, whatever it is. Writing, it can even be something, writing a journal entry talking about these things that we've just told you to look at, right? Get uncomfortable by looking at yourself and saying, what areas do I want to improve in? How can I do better for myself? How can I be more self-esteemed and self-confident?
Confident.
Yes.
Wow. Okay.
Thanks for listening. Yeah. We just gave you guys a lot. Join us again next time on
Friends Who Want You to Win. Pow, 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 pow. Peace out. Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of Friends Who Want You to Win, where we give you the everyday advice that you need to boost your self-confidence, build meaningful relationships, how to stop self-sabotage, and so much more.
Yes, but your story doesn't end here. If you are ready to break free from old patterns, step into your greatness, and take control of your life, our monthly membership is your next move.
Inside, you'll find life-changing tools, live expert guidance, and a community dedicated to supporting you to unlock your full potential.
So don't let fear or doubt hold you back. Reach out today for more info on why joining us will be the best decision you have ever made for yourself. Your greatness is waiting. Let's discover it together.
For more information on how to join, get in touch with us at www.theequalityeducation.com.